You are listening to the Next Play Podcast, the playbook for high-performing leaders who want to exceed their full potential. From walking on the Ole Miss football team at 5'7", 150 pounds and earning a full D1 scholarship, to coaching thousands around the world and working with massive organizations like IBM. I've learned countless lessons that I'll be sharing right here with you. Join me as I interview some of the most successful people so you too can learn how to focus on always moving forward by deciding, planning, and executing on the next play relentlessly. All right, good morning, everybody. What is going on? I hope you are doing well. And I hope you're ready for an amazing week. Like, this is going to be the week, and we have a topic today that is really powerful. And you know, the reason we're doing this topic is because of a couple of conversations that I had, but also the series basically that we've been going through since January. And we've been going through this methodology, right, of motivation and vision and skills and habits and interference and accountability. And one of the big things is interference, which is what we're going to be talking a lot about today. There's multiple facets of interference that you may have in your life, but the interference that we're talking about today also is a skill that we can build, right? It's just a skill. Really powerful message today, and that's how to deal with bullies, with haters, and negative people, right? How to deal with bullies, haters, and negative people. We're going to talk about the why. Why do people do it? What are people actually doing? How do we distinguish the difference between a negative person, someone just being an ass, and somebody actually who's a bully, and just dealing with negative people in general? When do they do it? How do we respond to it? How do we act to it? And how do we capitalize on it? And the coolest thing is this process we're going to go through today is what you can do, obviously, to remove a lot of interference from your life, because the more and more you become successful, the more interference you will have in your life. And you should be already figuring that out to this point. But if you're experiencing a lot of negative people and interference, it's because you're climbing the ladder, right? And so how you deal with those people is obviously super critical and super important to your success, your mental health, which is super important, and just understanding where these people are coming from and why they're doing it alone is going to make everything so much easier for you. Why? Let's start with this. Number one, why? Why do people hate? Why do they bully? Why do they pull other people down? Like, why do people do this? Why do people feel the need that they have to do this? And number one, and most, to make this as simple as humanly possible for you, the reason that people do this, very simply, is because they are insecure. They're insecure. It's really not that complicated. People do this because they are insecure, right? They're insecure. And the people that pretend like they're not insecure, they just have fake confidence, right? They have fake confidence. Or people, you'll see this all the time, especially with like people who are super negative, try to pull you down, is they act like they're all confident, they're all bad. And then all of a sudden, all that confidence goes away when they're at home, when they're by themselves, because they're not truly confident. They're not truly confident. It's like fake confidence, right? They pull other people down because they think it's what makes them look good. They think that in order for them to get ahead, they have to pull other people down, right? And knowing this alone in your mind, when you have negative people, whether it's on social media, whether it's clients, whether it's colleagues, whether it's if you're back in school, or it doesn't matter. And understanding that when people do this, it's the root cause of it is some sort of insecurity in their life, is going to help you and make you think a little bit differently about how you respond, right? And obviously, more importantly, you're going to learn that this is your duty to respond a certain way because you're actually going to be helping them. Something's wrong in their life. Like, is the bottom line. Something's wrong in their life. So the way we respond is our responsibility to pick them up. I know that sounds kind of contradictory, just bear with me, but it's our responsibility to pick them up. Right? And as we talk through the Relentless Warrior framework, and if we've continued to go through this, right now we're in two places. One, we're removing interference, so we're right here, and we're removing interference, and we're also developing a skill. And this skill is so important right here. This skill is so important as you become and have more success moving forward. And that skill is the ability to deal with negative people. It's a soft skill, right? You can call it an interpersonal skill, but here's the way I look at it. The greatest motivational speaker that I've ever had, the greatest motivational speaker to me, were all the negative and hurtful people that told me I couldn't do something. So what if you, whether it's just a client saying no to you, or someone being nasty on social media, or a friend, or whoever that's trying to be negative, trying to pull you down, trying to keep you from moving forward, if you flipped that and said, hey, you're the reason why I'm motivated. Thank you for the motivation, right? So it kind of hits on a few different areas. One in the motivation is our pain. The skill, we're building the skill of dealing with negative people, bullies, haters, whatever you want to call them, and interference, removing these people out of our life, right? We've got to get them out of our life. Super important. Yeah, exactly, Rick. Many people are really struggling handling bullies because they don't have the skills to handle them. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about. So what is the antidote to negative people? This is really important. What is the antidote to negative people? It's confidence. Let me repeat that. The antidote to negative people is confidence. When you're confident, right, you really don't care what people say. Have you ever been in a situation where everything in your life is going really well, you're doing really, really well, and you're just like everything's going in your favor, and you don't care what people say, you don't care what people think, like everything is just going well because you're doing good, you're confident, you're the big man. If someone says something negative, you just shrug it off and laugh because you know it's not true. So the antidote to negative people, to bullies, to haters is confidence. So when you're confident, you don't care. So it's not so much of the skill of understanding and overcoming and dealing with negative people. It's how to build confidence, which we talk about in another course. There's obviously more to it, right? And I know what people say is hurtful, dude. My Instagram is so I'll go and do an event and I'll get lots of great comments and then negative ones, right? And message. It's just the way it is. Like, that's just the way it is. And it's hurtful. But when you truly believe what you're doing and you believe in yourself and you're confident, then you don't care, is the bottom line. Or you only care for a specific period of time. And after that, it just doesn't even matter. It literally doesn't even matter. Right? So anybody can build confidence, right? We've talked about it's a skill. Anybody can build confidence. Let me give you an example, right? Like parents got divorced, failed 5th grade, still found a way. Still found a way to get confidence. Got cut from Jacksonville University, still found confidence and got to go play at Ole Miss, right? My first business partner quit, still was able to build confidence and get through it. So for you, what are some of the things that happen in your life that you're still able to build confidence and get through it? Because it's just a skill. It's just a skill. Regardless of the mistakes that you've made and the bad things that have happened to you, you can build confidence. Regardless of the bad decisions that you made, the mistakes that you've made in the past, bad things, right, have happened to you, and you can still build confidence. So don't give up on yourself with that. You can't give up on yourself with that. So the antidote, listen to me closely, the antidote to negative people is confidence. Is confidence. And so let me break this down for you right now, because you see this in workplaces all the time. You see this in schools all the time. And I tell people this all the time. It doesn't just end with school. It doesn't end with school. It just doesn't. The more success, especially with online, the more success that you have, the worse this is going to get. So people always ask the question, well, I'm getting bullied. Well, what is a bully? I'm like, most people don't even know what a bully is, but it's important. We got to know what this is, right? It doesn't matter if you're an adult, you're a kid, you're a grandparent. You see this everywhere. So we still got to be able to handle this. So men tend to be more aggressive. We want to like fight people and physical, right? And women, which I feel like is much worse, tend to be more of like innuendo and gossip, right? Which is a way of doing it. So these are types of ways that you can pull people down, negativity and bullying, right? Make it simple. So the question is, what is the definition though? And the definition is 2 words: targeted and repeated. Say that with me: targeted and repeated. I know you're behind a screen right now. You're on your phone, you're on your iPad, your computer. This is important to know. If you want to be able to handle negative people, shake it off like this, you got to know targeted and repeated. Very simple. Targeted and repeated. What does that mean? Targeted means that they're coming specifically after you. If someone just like had a bad day, right? They're like, oh, and they're just rude to you. They're mean to you. They're negative to you one time. Just because you happen to be there, you're in the comments, you're just happen to be there in person. That's not bullying, right? It has to be like, I'm coming after this person, and then I'm going to do it over and over and over. If someone comes after you one time and says something super negative, that's not bullying. That's just an asshole, right? That's all it is. So it has to be targeted and it has to be repeated over and over and over and over again, right? So that's how we figure it out. So the question is, if we know what it is, we have negative people, we want to learn how to handle negative people in our life, people trying to pull us down, people trying to keep us from going where we want to go, whether it's colleagues, whether it's other students, whether it's other athletes, whether it's a boss, it doesn't matter, right? There's 3 steps in order to handle this. There's 3 steps, all right? And so as we kind of break through this, I'd like for you to write these 3 steps down, because the easier this is for you, the faster you'll be able to do this every single day in your life, okay? So step number 1 is you have to ignore. You have to ignore. You ignore to find other people's intentions, right? Because if you look at the definition we just talked about, it's repeated. So if someone says something to you, does something to you, and it's super negative, and they do it one time, then you ignore it, they go away, and that's the end of it, right? Is it easy to ignore it? No, I understand. It's very hard to do. I get it. I understand. But this is what we have to do in order to move to the next level, right? We have to ignore. We have to ignore. Challenging beyond belief. Hurtful beyond belief. Do we have to do it? Yes. I'm going to share a story with you. My worst experience with haters, that's what I call it. My worst experience with haters was in the locker room with the Cotton Bowl down in Dallas, Texas. And I had some players that were in the locker room with me when I was at Ole Miss. And they were great. They became, 2 of them became all-star NFL players. And I didn't realize this at the time, but they were super insecure, right? And which is crazy, because they shouldn't have been. They should have known, they should have watched this. But they were super insecure. And in order to make themselves feel better, they had to constantly pull me down and pull other people down. I didn't get this at the time. I handled it completely wrong. And so one day in the locker room, they were just coming after me. And I was kind of come back at them. And and it was just making it worse and worse, and there was other players involved, and it got really bad. A coach came in, it all kind of went apart, and that was the end of it. I was so frustrated at this time, so frustrated. I wanted to quit so bad. But there was a coach there who became a mentor, and he showed me a different way. He showed me the right way. And he said, look, I've been experiencing this a lot in my life, and I learned a way to do this from actually another mentor. And he goes, let me share it with you. And I was like, yes, please share it with me. And he taught me what's step number 2. So step number 1, we ignore. Step number 2, we stand up. We have to be able to stand up to negative people. The difference is there's a right way to stand up and a wrong way to stand up. Very simple. There's a right way to stand up and there's a wrong way to stand up. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'd like to share with you a quick little video. Now I'm going to share with you this video. If you can hear it, please shoot me in the chat while it's playing that I know you can hear it. And then we'll watch it. All right. But please shoot me a chat either way so I know that you can actually hear it. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into it.
Is that you can't cuss, okay? So you got to keep it PG-13, PG. Okay. Cool? All right. So that's really the rule, all right? So here's the deal. I'm going to give you something to start off with and to say, and pretty much you could say, as long as you don't cuss, anything you want about me, anything negative that you'd like to say about me, you're more than happy to say. I'm going to give you the first thing, and I'm going to come back. Are we all good? Are we all good? All right, cool. So the first thing is really easy. All you're going to say is, you're the shortest football player I ever met.
You're the shortest football player I've ever met.
Oh. Where did you get those pants? I mean, those look like, did you cut them off a parachute? I didn't, wait, what did you say? Oh, that's harsh, okay. I got that, all right. And did you decide not to do your hair this morning? Is that, what, it looks a little rough.
Same with you, is that why you're wearing a hat?
Those are, what sandals you got there? Those little fake Calvin Klein wannabe.
You probably wouldn't know.
Huh?
They're real, you probably wouldn't know.
Yeah. Ugly ankle bracelets you have on, and. All right, let's give it a round of applause. All right, stay up for a second. All right. So this is how most people think that they're going to stand up. So there's two things. They're either going to come back extremely negative at the other person, online, in person, or they're either going to come back extremely negative, or it's going to get physical, right? So a lot of it is like innuendo, stuff like that, spreading rumors, and then a lot of times with men it gets really physical. But there's actually a right way to stand up. So we're going to do this one more time. And you're going to start off with the same thing. You're the shortest football player I've ever met.
You're the shortest football player I've ever met.
I know, I appreciate that. You know what's really cool is because I was short, when I got to the campus of Ole Miss, one thing that it really helped me out with was because I was short, I had a low center of gravity. And I was able to dip around linebackers, catch passes, dive down. And it was much harder for them to tackle me. It was really cool. Yeah, so I liked it. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And that's the point. Give her a round of applause. Okay, good job. Let's give her a real round of applause. All right, so here's the deal. Let's give her a real round of applause.
All right. Okay, what's going on? Can you guys hear me now? Just want to make sure we're good to go before we jump in. What's up? We got Andres, Kyle, Can you guys hear me? Yes. Okay. Perfect. All right. What's up, Rick? All right. So there's a right way and there's a wrong way, right? And that video really illustrates the point that I'm going to make here. Colleagues, boss, coworker, team member, classmate, doesn't matter. Standing up isn't easy, but it's simple. And here's the one word that makes it all easy. The word is love. The word is love. You have to stand up with love. When you stand up to someone, whether it's online, in person, doesn't matter, and you stand up to them, someone who's trying to pull you down with love, you're legitimately helping them. Let me explain in just a second. This is what the coach taught me. Very simply. He said, stop coming back harder than they are coming at you. Because I felt, if they said something about me, if they came after me something negative, I had to come back harder than they did. That's what I figured I had to do. This one lesson changed my life, and I wouldn't be here in front of you right now if it wasn't for this one lesson. We talk about interference. We talk about people, negative people in our way. It's a massive interference in our life. And this one lesson changed everything drastically. Now, we come back with love. Number one. Number two, we use this negativity as motivation. As motivation to move forward. Very simply. All you have to say is this. Thank you. Thank you for the motivation. Say something, thank you for the motivation. That's it. Whatever, if you have to say something. I appreciate what you're saying. Thank you for the motivation. That's it. That's all you have to say. And here's what will happen. We ignored them. They keep coming back. Eventually, they're going to stop. They're going to get really, really, really mad for a period of time. They're going to be mad because you're not reacting. When you react negatively, they're getting something out of you. Those players, every time I would get super frustrated, they were getting something out of me. But when I stopped and I started just saying, I appreciate that. Thank you. That's my motivation for practice today. It took a few days, took a few times, but they stopped. They gave up. And this is how we respond to negative people, whether it's at work, whether it's at school, whether it's playing a sport. It doesn't matter. Coworkers, this. People are going to try to pull you down. Remember, they're insecure. That's why they're doing it. It's our duty. It's literally our duty to help them get through that insecurity. Right? It's literally our duty. And so the way we respond is we respond with love. I appreciate, you know what? I appreciate that. Thank you for the motivation. That's it. So simple. It's going to be hard. It's simple. It's not easy. It's a very hard thing to do, especially when you're frustrated, when you're angry, when you're mad, when you're embarrassed. It's very challenging to do. So number one, we ignore. Number two, we stand up. And number three, got to talk to someone you trust. If you're under 18, you got to tell an adult, right? If somebody's you ignored somebody, you came back with them at love. You did that 3, 4, 5 times, and they're still coming after you. You got to tell someone you trust. Number one, for your own mental health. And number two, if it's going to get serious, right? You have to. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to tell somebody at work because it's going to get worse. Every time I walk into the office, or every time I talk to this person, or I'm on a Zoom call, or I'm on a team, or I'm at a school, and this and that, it gets worse. So I don't want to tell anybody because I don't want it to get worse. Well, the thing is if you don't tell anybody, it's going to continue to get worse, right? You got to talk. You got to have someone you trust. I don't have anyone to tell. Well, look, I was actually in that same spot at one point. But if you don't have anyone to tell, let me ask you a question. You know the answer. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? It's about relationships, right? If you don't have someone you could trust, you got to build relationships with people. Whether that's at work, whether that's at school, whether that's on your team, it doesn't matter. But you got to have somebody that you can share this with. Somebody that you can talk to about this. And this could also be like your success coach, your accountability coach, a great friend, could be your boss, right? But if you're feeling depressed or anxious, you got to talk to somebody. You see this all the time. You see people hold it in, especially on the male side. Like, that's not good. You got to talk to somebody. It's okay to talk to somebody, and you should. You should. All right? So number 1, you ignore. Number 2, you stand up. Number 3, you got to share it. Number 1, it could become very serious. Number 2, your own mental health, right? All right, and we can go to vulnerability and all that stuff, but that's for another day. And lastly here, if you follow these 3 steps, you will always win. They may win in the short term. The insecure person may win in the short term. But if you follow these 3 steps, you will win. I've been sharing these 3 steps for years, right? I started out in the youth market, and so this was a heavy topic that they always wanted me to talk about. But then I noticed it doesn't stop in school. Gets worse in the workplace. It gets worse as an entrepreneur, sales. It's bad, right? And so still these 3 things hold true. It's worked for many people. A mentor said this to me, and I'm going to share it with you. He said, in every interaction that you make, do something to make that person's day a better day. It's all about relationships. So one of my challenges for you is that in every interaction this week, doesn't matter who it's with, what if you did something to make that person's day a better day, regardless of how negative they are, regardless of how rude they are? And if they're continuing to be worse and worse and worse, then it's interference, and we got to get them out of our life. How do we always win? We come back with love. In every interaction, we do something to make that person's day a better day. And at the end of the day, if that person wants to stay negative, we got to remove them out of our life. And I know it gets challenging if it's a family member, and well, then you have to limit it for a period of time. And at some point, you got to make a decision, right? If you put this in perspective, there's always going to be way more positive people than negative people. Sometimes we get caught up in all the negative people, especially if you're online. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be much more positive people than negative people, right? And so as we wrap this up here today, in time, my challenge for you is this. Number 1, to follow the 3-step process anytime you have anybody that does anything negative, right? Number 1, you ignore them. Number 2, if they keep doing it, you come back with love. How do you come back with love? I appreciate the motivation. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the motivation. It's very simple. Use this as motivation for your week. Someone comes up and they're negative, they're rude, they're mean. Thank you for the motivation. I appreciate it. Boom. Go back to trying to achieve what you want to achieve. Thank you for the motivation. I appreciate it. Someone says it's mean to you on a cold call. Thank you. I appreciate the motivation. Boom. To the next one. And talk to your accountability partner, your success coach, whatever you want. Talk to them. If it keeps getting worse and worse and worse, you got to have someone you could talk to about it. And lastly, if it keeps happening and keeps happening and keeps happening, very simply, lastly, it's interference, and you got to find a way to remove them out of your life. Right? And I know it's challenging if it's a family member. We talk about this and that. It's a challenging thing, right? But that at that point in time, that's a choice. That's something that you have to do and decide. But that's a little bit out of the realm of this conversation, right? I hear that all the time, and what I always say is you got to be respectful. You have to keep that relationship as positive as you possibly can, and when the time is right, if it makes sense, then you can go your separate ways. Well, people are thinking about marriage, or they're thinking about, oh, that's my parents, or that's my kids, right? Like, so that's not an area that I jump into, but I'm just sharing what I've seen people do and what's worked, right? That's all I can do. It's observation, right? So number 1, ignore. Number 2, stand up and use it as motivation. Number 3, have someone you could talk to about it. And if it keeps getting worse, number 4, interference, get them out. Get them out. This isn't complicated, right? It's not that complicated. And I'm with you, Rick. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of embarrassing moments. Exactly. So as we move forward through this week, because I'm 3 minutes behind, it's 30 minutes. We started at 9:03 actually. Of course, as always, we have to take relentless action. This week, my challenge for you is not that challenging, but if you're paying attention to it, like we always talk about, you will notice this a lot. You will notice how many negative people and how you can easily respond to them by number 1, just ignoring it. They keep doing it. Number 2, kill them with love. Use it as motivation. Number 3, very simple. Talk to somebody. And if they keep doing it, get them out of your life. Get them out of relentlessly get them out of your life. As fast as you possibly can, right? As fast as you can. The right way. So it is Monday morning. It is 9:34. I'm a little bit over. But hey, this is a really important topic that is critical to your success as we talk about interference, and we can constantly go through the Relentless Warrior framework. So it is a beautiful week. It's your week, as always. What's up, Siobhan and Kyle? I see that you guys joined a little bit later. Have an amazing week this week. Grind. And don't let anybody, negative or not, get in your way, because they don't deserve your time to begin with. So have a good week. I'll see you all next Monday morning at 9 a.m. with another amazing live and some motivation for your week. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Next Play podcast. If you liked the show, make sure to leave us a review. For more resources, visit relentlessuniversity.com or download the free Relentless University app. And if you're interested in having me speak at your next event, visit relentlessrichie.com. Until next time.